It's great having Coach Mack here. It was awesome coaching Derek, his grandson, and TC was a graduate assistant for me the first year I was here, and now he went on to bigger and better in the NFL and doing really well he's at the 49ers now, and got a close relationship with the family and love having Coach Mack around, all that he can be around. So he's always inspired me, and basically the way he lived his life inspires me more than everything else he's done. So I appreciate him being here. Thanks, Coach. All right, I'll take any questions about Nebraska.
Coach, maybe keeping in the spirit of Coach McCartney's speech, but obviously a lot of passion for this rivalry around town, around this school. Do you try to tap into that with the players? I mean, obviously, it's been a long time since it has been an important rivalry.
Right.
These guys, your players, probably don't remember it at all. How do you kind of maybe juggle that balance this week?
Well, they are excited about playing this game. There's no doubt. They've heard about it since the last game of the season was over last year. I think everybody's been talking about this game all the time. I've tried to temper it going into our last week's game, but that's the buzz that's been around, which is exciting for our players, for our program, and we're excited about going to play in Lincoln. But they do understand the intensity as best they can at this point, but they'll understand it definitely when we get there for sure.
Aside from watching some UCF film like you talked about yesterday, have you watched any high school film on the freshman quarterback? Or
we saw him. He got hurt a little bit his senior year in high school too. It's been a while since he's played a lot. We watched the spring game where he played really well in that. That kind of gives us the best telltale sign of him. We saw him play in high school, and he was a heck of a player. He's a really good athlete, and he can do a lot of different things. And so, we've been watching UCF film and watching their spring game film and trying to figure out what they want to do. It's a little bit of an unknown. They'll always have a few new wrinkles and things that they do. Scott Frost and Troy Walters are excellent offensive coaches, and I know they'll do really well with what the young man can do in the game.
Mac, I want to ask you the similar question I asked Stephen about, as successful as your team was on Friday, how you make sure they stay hungry. They're not reading the headlines or watching the highlights, that sort of thing. And does that speak to maybe kind of the leadership and personality this team has?
Yes, I sure hope they're not doing. That's one game, and we've got a lot left to do. But yeah, I felt like the leadership practice has not shown that the last 2 days. Meetings, the way they've showed up to work, their attitude, their focus hasn't showed any of those signs that you notice. So I feel like they're definitely locked in and want to go play really well in Lincoln.
Coach, Nate was just named Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Week a couple hours ago. And you guys kind of had to make room for him to make that first start.
Right.
What did he show you as a young player, or when did you kind of say, okay, he needs an opportunity, we need to make sure that he's in the middle of our defense?
Yeah, and Nate's an excellent football player, as you saw. We saw glimpses of it last year, and he kept going on. Then he had an excellent spring. And then about 5 days into fall camp, I said, we've got to get him and Drew and Rick on the field at the same time. And matter of fact, I was walking up from a media thing after practice, and I'm walking up the hill, and I'm going, I say I'm going to split time with them. Why would I do that? I need to get them all three on the field. And Drew's a good enough athlete that he can do that. And it opens up our defense having Drew play outside backer because we can do a little bit more things coverage-wise with him because he can run so fast and he's so athletic. And then bringing him off the edge, he brings speed. We've got some really good outside linebackers, but a lot of times in the game we've got a kid that runs a 10.5 and a kid that runs a 4.4 that's 220 pounds and they're close to 6'2 and a half. Coming off the edge, that's a lot of speed out there with Nate and Rick inside. So I think that helped our overall defense. And then sitting down and talking to Drew was the biggest deal in it. And he goes, Coach, I'll do whatever we need to do for the team. I can play outside. And then when we go nickel, he plays inside. So, but Nate made his way, and all the kids on the team wanted Nate on the field. It's kind of all the kids on the team wanted Visca on the field. So we found ways to get those guys on the field and make plays with them.
You mentioned Visca there. He was versatile in high school, but was there a point this past offseason that you felt you really had to get creative given his versatility and skill set?
Yeah, Chev and Clayton sat down and really started looking at it and ability to get a lot of those guys on the field at the same time. And, Visca could play tailback, Visca can play tight end, Visca can play wide receiver. He can play Mike linebacker, he can play outside backer. There's a lot of things Visca can do. So we felt like we needed him on the field all the time and utilize him in all different spots for our football team, which would make it hard for them to key on him and give us versatility within one package of players out there. You don't have to always substitute. And now you can play fast and you can do a lot of different things. So he gives us the ability to do that. And I thought that was a great thought. Chev brought it to me and said, hey, we can get all those guys out there. And I said, that's a great idea. Let's work on doing it. And so Clayton and all the coaching staff and all those guys on offense put it together, and we've just been working with it. And each week we'll change up things and different tweaks with it. But I'm excited about the way we're headed with that.
Mike, just going back to your conversation with Drew.
Yep.
He had a great year last year and racked up a whole lot of numbers. And so when you have that conversation, how did that go? Did it take some convincing with him, or was it pretty quick that he?
No, it didn't take much convincing at all. He played safety in high school, so the outside backer spot's a good spot for him too. He can do some coverage things there, and then you can rush the passer because he's really good at that. And then when we go nickel, he would be back inside, which gives us versatility there too. So he was fine with it, and he knew that would help our football team if him and Nate were on the field at the same time. He saw that too, and he had the more versatility athletically to go outside, and Nate fits really well inside, as you can tell. So I think it helped our team, and he knows that. It's all about our team winning, and he'll make a lot of plays for the year's over. He made some plays the other night.
Hey, Mike, when you guys recruited Visca, obviously he and KD played together, and they're polar opposites. KD's very gregarious, and Visca's really shy. What was it like?
You're not around him all the time.
Well, that's what I'm kind of asking. Like, what is Visca like? Because we talked to him.
Yeah.
He's very pleasant, but just a man of very few words. So what was recruiting him like? Was it challenging from that aspect?
You're right. KD was kind of the bell cow at the school. He was kind of the guy at DeSoto High School. Visca was his sidekick, and they did everything together. They were always together. But Visca has a very good personality. He's really funny. He's opened up, and you'll get to see more of that as you around him the next couple years. So, but it was a lot of fun recruiting both of them. Chev and Darian Hagan recruited there, did a great job with those young men, and we even have a package called DeSoto where they're in. So one kid, even one of our guys, what's this? I said, DeSoto, that's where the two guys are from. And they go, oh, DeSoto. Okay, we got it, DeSoto High School. So it's fun with those two guys. And, yeah, KD is definitely outgoing, but Visca's not as shy as you think he is.
Mike, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but preparing for a true freshman quarterback making his first start without giving anything away, what just goes into trying to get as much planning and information as you can, in that kind of situation?
Yeah, it's really tough without any game tape for the situation. But we are going off the assumption that it was going to be very similar to Central Florida. But defensively and offensively, we prepare for everything. And, if they're going to run a certain scheme, they can put 11 guys out there, right? We can put 11 out. So, all of your schemes offensively and defense should handle everything. There's just some things that might surprise you a little bit, but our kids ought to be able to adjust very easily to it. So now we just got to go play. So hopefully we'll be able to adjust as the game goes on in the first quarter to really get a feel for what they're trying to emphasize in the offense with Martinez.
Coach, I feel like we always ask the players when it comes to rivalry games, do they get, extra excited or extra juiced up for the game? As a coach, do you kind of get a little more pumped up? I know you don't have experience going up against Nebraska, but this is your first Nebraska rivalry game.
Yeah, you definitely do. The rivalry game is a game that sticks with the coach 365 days a year also. And you get questions asking more about your rivalry games than you do the others as the years go by. So, but this is growing up, watching the Colorado-Nebraska game on Thanksgiving Day, we used to always play the day after Thanksgiving or Saturday when we played Georgia Tech and Georgia. And so I knew about all the games. I remember I didn't know Hagan, but I knew number 3 Hagan. So all of those type of situations I remember well. And these young men here understand the Nebraska. I think when they sign with Colorado, people always say, "Do y'all still play Nebraska?" I mean, I get that question too. When are y'all playing Nebraska again? So now we are. So we're excited about that. But yeah, the rivalry game, there is a little added energy for sure. There's a little added intensity. You wish you'd say all 12 games you line up with the same intensity, the same energy. You don't, maybe. There's a percentage difference. And then plus going to play at Lincoln, it's a phenomenal place to go play college football. So that's what you work for and the players work for, and to enjoy that atmosphere.
Is it comparable to any other rivalries you faced during your playing career or earlier in your coaching
Well,
career?
our Georgia Tech-Georgia rival was a big rival. That was a lot of fun. A little bit closer. It was only like an hour and a half away. And then when I coached at Ole Miss, the Mississippi State-Ole Miss rivalry was I would say it was a hated rivalry. I mean, there was a hatred that ran in that rivalry. They had the policemen at half field when we warmed up. I mean, that's the truth. So it was crazy. Our wives wouldn't even go to the games if it was played away. It was just that bad. I would imagine it's still the same way as that game goes. So that it was a lot of fun to play in and coach in, though. I know that because everybody was ready to play.
Coach, once that Nebraska game this past weekend was canceled, what kind of scrambling did that cause for you and your staff as you started preps for this game?
That's funny. David Platty and I and Rick George are all texting back as it's in. I said, "It's canceled." And they go, "What?" I said, "Yeah, they just canceled it." And then I got a text from Platty telling me, "No, they're going to play it at 9:30." And then 3 minutes later, I get a text saying they're not going to play it. And I text David and I text Rick, and I'm like, "Okay, we're their opening game." So we of course, coaches, we want to get the film and get to work on it. But we didn't get any. Clayton Adams said an interesting story the other day I thought was pretty good. For some reason, one year at Boise State, I don't know what happened, but they weren't allowed to trade film or something for a couple games. So they just had to practice against each other. The other team got their film. I guess it was some NCAA rule or something a long, long time ago. He said they won both games, though. They just practiced really hard, got out there and played. So the film does matter. There's no doubt about it. But hopefully we're able to, like I said, our offense and defense and special teams should be able to handle anything they can give you because people change things during the weeks.
Hey, Mike, 2 questions. The first being, whose decision was it to play highlights of the old games throughout the Champion Center on the TV, and I guess why? That's the first question.
Right. I don't know. They were just on. When I got here Sunday morning, it was running. So I don't know who put them up or what's the reason. But all the televisions were on. The one was on in my conference room. So I watched a few minutes of it, then I turned it off because I needed to go watch Now's film and UCF and everybody else. So it was up and running in every area.
Second question, it might have been tongue-in-cheek, but Coach Mack said he'd love to get 2 minutes with the team to give them an inspirational talk. Yeah. I don't know if you heard that.
Oh, yeah, I would love Coach Mack to. He's talked to our team quite often, and would love for him to come talk to our team for sure. And I know we got to. He knows he's able to come to every practice anytime he wants. I think he comes at different times. And it's awesome having him around. And I would love for him to talk to the team. There's no doubt about it. And the team would love for him to talk. He's kind of one of those speakers that gets you riled up, to say the least. And the last time he did it, he dropped the mic and walked out. It was pretty cool. He's been watching those guys on television.
Coach, I know you win and lose as a team. But knowing what you know about Scott Frost and his background, is there one particular unit or group of players that get special emphasis in terms of adjusting, and what are your keys for this game?
Well, they're very dynamic. His offense is very dynamic, going against a little bit at Oregon. It has a lot of Chip Kelly emphasis in it. And I can see some things that Troy Walters brought to it, too, looking at knowing old Oregon film and then what they're doing now. Their quarterback they had at UCF, he's a little Houdini. I don't know if y'all have seen him. I mean, he's really a Houdini. I mean, he's amazing. And they were able to let him get out and make plays, and I think they'll probably try to do the same thing with Martinez. And so that's ability to try to control the quarterback a little bit will be really tough. But, they've got a lot of motion, a lot of movement. So on defense, you got to be able to handle the motion, handle it to line correctly, so they don't crease you with a dive or crease you with a quarterback pull. There's a lot of option emphasis in their offense, a lot of option. And it's which goes back to Scott Frost's days as an option quarterback, So I think that there's a lot of emphasis in there. They do a great job with them, and with what they do offensively.
Anything else for Coach MacIntyre?
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.